please welcome back the Executive Director of Open Compute Project Foundation, Cole Crawford.
What comes around?
Hey guys, thanks for coming back from lunch. I know we got a late start to lunch, and I appreciate you guys coming back. Obviously, you see the room's a little emptier. We've got a number of events going on now, multiple levels here. The next speakers that we have up here are no stranger to open source. They're no stranger to open compute. They play a major role. They've played not only a founding role, but a very critical role in defining and establishing what open compute is today. These guys, like Facebook, had something very cool and very special, and they altruistically gave that to the community, like Facebook initiated the Open Compute Project with. So it's my pleasure now to introduce you to Wesley Jess, who is the Vice President of Supply Chain for Rackspace, and Aaron Sullivan, who is the Director and Principal Engineer of Hardware Engineering.
All right, the after lunch lull. So glad to have you all here. I'm Wesley Jess. This is Aaron Sullivan.
Hi.
I oversee Rackspace's supply chain. So what we've been asked to do is take you a bit through our journey and our experience as a customer of Open Compute. And as you heard Cole state earlier, we look at Open Compute as a natural extension of OpenStack. So we see them basically vertically integrating together. And what we just want to take a few minutes and walk you through our journey. To reset last year, we gave an update on how we were proceeding. The good news is it's actually gone quite well for us over the last year since we touched base with you. So when we originally dug into Open Compute, what everybody told us, it was this big black box of awesome. So what the heck does that mean? When we started digging into what Open Compute really is in open source hardware, the one thing that we were consistently told is, you can't do this. It's too hard for you. You don't have the engineering staff. And as Matt Cordery said earlier, he said he can fit his hardware engineering staff in a bus. Well, at the time we started this, we could fit our engineering staff in a small sedan. By the way, we can fit them now in a minivan, so that's how many we have, and we're still yet able to get the achievements. And Aaron will touch on that a little bit later. And then, so one of the things we said was, well, let's go dig into what is Open Compute, what could it mean for us? And the only way, you gotta look in the black box, you gotta figure out what it is. And our team did a fantastic job over the last 2 years digging into this. And then why we chose Open Compute. Open Compute, the principles of Open Compute stand for so many things that Rackspace is about, notwithstanding the OpenStack aspect and our embracing of open technologies. But very much, early on it was about economics. Should we do it for the economic reasons? And then we realized the economic reasons actually turn out to be outcomes. You get a lot by doing this. And so as we thought about our experience and our interaction of how we bought hardware, we pretty much kind of considered it a commodity, but it really wasn't a commodity. The hardware selection process for us was kind of like buying a car. And so the car buying process, buying a car may not be the best experience you ever go through, but when you go in, there's generally a pretty good selection of product that you can choose from. And with that, what we found is and I was recently looking for a car for my wife. And so I was in, and you can buy option A, and this happened to be an Audi. It had to be about $4,000 worth of options, of which I didn't need 3/4 of them. So our experience, and my experience around looking at buying a vehicle, is very similar. There are a lot of good options out there, but what we found is there's a lot of things that I don't necessarily need in the vehicle in that shopping experience. And Aaron, I'll hand this over to you to hit this part.
Sure. So we think of ourselves as a member in the crowd that you see here. For years, there's been press, media, photos, websites, blogs, all kinds of information about how there are big cloud companies that are building their own systems, and they're very powerful, and it's a little bit like watching these cars race around the track. You'd love to get in one and ride it around. You get excited to see it. It's very powerful. It's costly, and it probably doesn't drive where it is that you want to go. Our experience here is a little bit different. Our experience is more like this. This is a vehicle that drives in your part of town. You have your pit crew. It's the community that makes up that pit crew. You have your engineering team, but the larger community and the resources that you draw from help you to make your vehicles for your business very powerful.
Yeah, and then just getting a little bit into the Rackspace business model, I think it's important to give some framing on this, and we had some feedback last year that not everybody really understands the Rackspace business model and really the level of complexity. So if you think our customer base, we have roughly 200,000 plus customers, and everyone is like an IT shop. So you have, imagine 200,000 IT shops that you deal with, and they've got anywhere from one application to say maybe 20 applications deployed in your environment. With that, that creates a lot of complexity and a lot of different customer need. So if I think about our customer gambits, they're basically, we deal anywhere from your traditional CIO, you know, kind of Fortune 100 type company, all the way to the garage shop, people that are hacking all different hacking applications, putting them together, having them up, they'll be up for an hour and taking them back down. So the breadth and depth of customers we deal with is pretty broad.
From mainframe to Rubbermaid tubs.
Yeah, evidently, we had a good discussion with the rubber tub guy, so. But with that, one of the things we talk about is, what is the best fit infrastructure for your application? It's how do we fit our infrastructure to meet your application needs? And with that, we have 3 core product offerings that really make up our hybrid portfolio, and that's our public cloud options. Our traditional background is in dedicated or managed hosting, as you'll see it referenced, and also our private cloud. And with that, if you log on our sites, one thing you see is we'll customize our hybrid solution for you. We'll optimize the optimize open technologies whenever possible, but we also do a lot with. Well, actually, I'll stay on the key part is around our fanatical support. So layering across whatever we do for our customer base is our support layer is the crucial aspect of our business. So with that, if I look at our portfolio, I was just mentioning on the left-hand side where you have public cloud, you have many different products that fit within the public cloud infrastructure. And if you think top of rack on down, that the needs are very unique by each one of these products. If you look at managed hosting, that's really based on what is the customer asking for. Anywhere from top of rack all the way to load balancers, firewalls, storage. And if you look at the many different types of applications we have deployed, what this leads to is a very complex set of infrastructure. And so how do you apply if you think a lot of the, we looked at the Freedom Server original design that Facebook put in when we originally got in, we said, fantastic design, it's optimized really tuned for a particular application, does not really work in our environment. So how can we take some of the principles that were brought in by Facebook, the Freedom Server, and apply them to our environment? And that's what we spent about a good part of a year journey on, is figuring out how do we transfer that into a server that's in a rack structure that's ubiquitous across this product portfolio. Good.
Yeah. So as Wes was saying a minute ago, it's a tug of war. When you're in a service company that's delivering all these technologies for all these different applications, you're in this constant battle between trying to maintain simplicity so that you can scale your operation, trying to operate out of your catalog, trying to push volumes, trying to keep the number of systems, the variety of systems you have online low so that you can manage their lifecycle more effectively, and dealing with that complexity that comes with wanting to drive a fanatical customer solution, wanting to have the best kinds of service, or trying to hit a special cost point or a performance level for a customer. As it turns out, we can use OCP very effectively. Not only do we use OCP for better designs, but our OCP output is faster than it was before. Our product output is faster than it was before. We showed this picture last year. We got a lot of feedback on this. This was one of our first experiences working with one of our partners, but it paints a really, really good picture of what it's like when you engage with this larger community. We've got one racker in this room, in that photo, and you have a whole bunch of engineers and architects and designers and technicians from a partner, or maybe many partners. And if we stood back a little further in that picture, you would have seen a group double that size. Look at the interaction on their faces. They're waiting to hear what he has to say. He's very engaged with them. You move quickly with this. You communicate with just the right people. You get just the right message across. That results in a system that best fits your needs.
And a little bit about, so what's interesting also, we've had a number of questions on this, is our hardware engineering design is actually a part of our supply chain, which is unique in a lot of respects, but we actually feel like we move quite quickly with that sort of, that design. We have our sourcing, our license management, many different functions are very integrated together, and really it's about agility and speed. And if we think about how we've interacted in the past, it was really kind of what you see on the left here. It was a very linear interaction, not as much interaction with our component, our key component manufacturers. And what we've done is we, in essence, have turned that on its head over the last 18 months. And what we found is really a lot of great outcomes with that model. By engaging with the component partners, we have access to early technologies. We actually give them a lot of our customer feedback. So you saw the Frank slide earlier where it's showing data going directly to the source. It helps shape their product roadmaps based on our customer learnings. And when you have 200,000 customers using the vast amount of applications, they give you a lot of feedback. So we try to figure out how do we incorporate that in our platform. But as I mentioned earlier, cost, the one thing that you see in the middle, that was kind of, we were looking at cost at the beginning, but we also saw the natural fit with OpenStack. But we really have a lot of benefits that we get. And one of the main ones is speed. Speed, and then also the diversity of and quality of engineering input that we get across the community. Yep.
So we talked a minute ago about how our engineering output is getting better. If you look at this graph, you can see one line with how we've scaled our headcount, and a bunch of bars with how we've scaled the number of projects that we're building in some phase on open compute platforms inside our business. Now, last year, when we were here, we said we were going to deliver a platform into production in our data centers early on that year. And as it turns out, we did. We built a platform that met the needs of our business at that point in time and was faster and more efficient than anything else that we had. But we ran into a problem. That particular system that went into production in that data center was built for a set of needs that our product people said our customers don't have as much anymore. They said, we need to change focus. We need to deliver a new type of system. We need to do it really fast. It took us a little while to figure out what type of system we were going to deploy. Once we had figured out what kind of system we wanted, which was late in the third quarter this year, we went to work on adapting what we had already built. And that's part of the wonderful thing about this, is we took those relationships and those systems that we'd already designed, and we saw that we could change them to some extent, build off them, contribute something back that's even better, and end up with systems that would meet our needs even more. So at this point, 3 months into the process, we developed a new system. We've had it run all the way through our lab. It's gone through qual, and it will be landing in our data center for production in the first quarter of this year. And you can see it's not the only platform that will go in for launch. And it's certainly not the only platform that we're planning on trialing or will have concepts for. A lot of excitement inside our business for what this brings. But it also shows how quickly you can change. If we go back to that car analogy for a minute, think about your car. Think about when you bought your car, if you had gone to the car company 2 months after you bought it and said, I'd really like it if you changed the windows on this, or just redo some of the interior or something like that. Imagine what your car company would say to you if you could even have a conversation with them on it. You're going to have to wait a year, or 2 years, or 3 years. We value your feedback, but we have a lot of needs we're going to meet. In this particular case, we were able to make those changes very quickly. That's very powerful. We showed the systems on the left very similar to what we had today. We had to change some components, we had to redo some firmware, change drives, a few other things like that. We were able to get through that very quickly. Those changes are also traditionally quite difficult for us. In many cases, taking a few quarters, maybe a year to get some kind of change like that through, with a lot of prep discussion in front. This didn't require a lot of prep discussion. If you look at the system on the right, we're actually, we worked with WeWin, and they have built a new platform that includes a drive cage holding much more local storage and a capability to support some very high-speed solid-state media that the rest of the community can now take advantage of as well. And both these systems are on display out in the show floor area. And this is a picture of one of the racks of our systems up close that we'll be putting online in the data center. You can see a whole rack, very similar to some pictures you might have seen earlier today. So we haven't really talked about lessons we've learned from this process. If there's one thing that I think is very valuable to anybody who's thinking of engaging here, it's how do I get comfortable with this, and what are things that I need to know so that I can do it better? I love this picture. This was us for a good chunk of last year on the engineering team. We're out in this beautiful new place. We're having all of these very productive interactions. It's awesome. And we're telling a lot of people about it. Maybe we're doing a little blogging, maybe we're sending some email, maybe we're sharing some slides. But we're not bringing them in, we're just telling them. Inside our business, we learned a lesson. If you want to get people appreciating the benefits of this, you need to bring them into that world with you. The closer you can get them, the more real that it seems, the more adaptive they realize it is when they look at something and say, I'd like a change there, and you can do it very quickly, the more likely you're going to get traction inside your business, the more successful you will be. Also, don't build the same old school bus. It works, it moves people, it's very efficient. It doesn't excite people. If you sit and you listen today, this morning, to what was coming on from a number of different providers, they got great technology. Like Frank was saying, some technologies that might not see the light of day outside of a community like this for want of traction in the market or a customer. You can use those. You can take some of the savings, some of the efficiency that you've gained in the system, and you can reinvest it. So you can take that bus. It might look like a bus on the outside, but man, it will be awesome when you put a jet in the back of it. And your developers and your product people will be very excited at the type of capabilities that you deployed, where you might have been limited by your budget or the design of the system that you were using before. So what you really want to do is take those same principles about community that we talked about earlier outside of your company, and you want to build them inside your company. You want to get your developers, your product teams, everybody on board, get those same interactions going. It may seem like it's more time consuming, but once you establish those relationships, it works much more smoothly, it works much more quickly than you might anticipate, and you're going to get a level of engagement inside your business with your IT departments that you probably haven't seen for a long time. Finally, look outside in the community and find others who have needs that are common with yours. Your projects will move faster, your partnerships will be better. The momentum that you generate in the larger community with a great idea you have is going to work better if you don't take it alone. Make sure that you just look around. You may not be able to find a partner in every case or another person with a common need, but where you can, it's really powerful. And I think what we're going to see as we're successful, as we're already seeing over the last few years in Open Compute, as this model continues to gain steam, as it continues to advance and mature, I think we're going to see a world where hardware starts to move more at the pace of software. Maybe in some cases where hardware is driving new capabilities in software. Common complaint in our world for a long time is, I got to wait a really long time to get a new piece of hardware that can meet my needs. And then I write my software, I put it on there, I run it, and I'm going to have to sit in that mode for a long time, even if I've got really good ideas. This community can change things. Think of it like a snowball. We start out in the movement with consumers who are doing some development. That's like Facebook. That's like us. It's like some others. And as that initial contribution goes out, you start to see other companies popping up that are doing pure development work here because they see a value in a consumer out there that may be small, but has huge potential. Those consumer communities start to pop up, very powerful, create a lot of demand. And as you saw earlier today, already universities are starting to get on board with their computer engineering groups, their electrical engineering groups, and so forth. As that starts to embed itself in the education systems and the professional training around the world, think about it like what Linux has done or other pieces of popular software as they've gotten into that setting. Students come out of those environments with skills you wouldn't have even known they had, you wouldn't have appreciated until that became the basis for how they were educated. Think of Open Compute as the potential for a textbook in those environments. So you create a new standard, a new way of doing things, and that's going to drive new markets. That's really good for all of us. That's that virtuous cycle. Finally, we're going to finish with a personal story. Do you remember seeing ads like this? A commercials like this, I remember. About 15 years ago, I remember I had my first interaction with Linux. I was working for a financial services company, and we had just put a huge system online running Solaris on large-scale Sun hardware. It ate up rows and rows in our data center floor. And around that same time, we'd sent people off for training to get expertise on Solaris. I was at a CompUSA, and I bought a box of Red Hat Linux software. And I put it on a little workstation that I had built, and I brought it into the office. And one weekend, I was saying to one of the guys that had just gotten back from training, wouldn't it be cool if I put a benchmark on my system with an application like what you have? In this case, it was like a file transfer suite. And I said, wouldn't it be cool if we compared how much faster your system was? We get a real appreciation for how awesome it is if we show your system's capabilities compared to my little workstation. The really funny thing was, my workstation outran this large system by miles. And when you see something like that, you realize, I don't know if this is ready for prime time, but it's coming, and it's going to be big, and it's going to change the world. So remember that ad. You smile at it when you look at it today. We have come so far, and it has changed so many things. It's like this giant journey. We're going to the moon. And initially, the parts, the modules, all the rest of that, they look like something where you say, boy, I don't know if I'd want to get into that. I appreciate it took people to the moon, but it looks a little scary. But isn't it awesome the journey those people went on, and the things that they learned, and the capabilities they developed in the process? And all of that started with little steps. This whole community builds from groups that do this in little tiny steps. And it snowballs.
Yep, and you just hang on to it. So the last thing, I just want to leave everybody with a last message. We started on this. So, supply chain guy, hardware engineering guy, we're down this, and literally you could fit us all in a car when we started this thing. And I mentioned earlier, people told us we couldn't do it. People said, gave us tons of reasons why we couldn't accomplish the goals that we tried to accomplish, and we have accomplished. And the net output is, we invite you to join us, take the small steps, get engaged. The relationships that are happening in the community, the partnerships with the supply base are absolutely fantastic. We've had nothing but a great experience both on the business side, the engineering side, and our last statement is, jump on in, the water's fine, and you have any questions, please feel free to address Aaron or myself. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.